Good morning, everyone. It is 7:26 in the morning on this first day of May 2018. Hope you all had a good Monday yesterday. And we had a fantastic month of April. We're going to have an equally fantastic month of May. And let's go ahead and take a look at our trades from yesterday. We have let's see, let me pull these up the right way. Okay, we had the first trade yesterday. We had the euro short at 28.7, or we wanted to go long at 20.88. There was a couple trades you're looking at based on structural bounce and the excessive kind of thrust down that we've experienced, and then coming back to the 1 second here. Okay, and then we were looking also, yeah, that long at 20.88 was based on structural and purely technical oversold conditions. Still, long term is way down. Long term approach is to go further down, and we shouldn't really experience any change in that, but we're looking for a bounce opportunity. And we're probably looking at that maybe again here. In fact, I'm thinking that we should probably initiate a long here right now, just based off of we've got this arc acting as support, so a short-term pullback on a long, maybe to retest 123, or actually probably the mid, probably 120.83. We'll call that a long scalp at 1.2029. All right, but that trade that we did do, the short yesterday on 120.87, that has obviously worked out very nicely, greater than 50 pips of movement on that. Very nice trade. The dollar yen, we wanted to go long at 109.30. That's what we did. We got about 40 pips of movement out of there. Now we're facing some really top-heavy resistance up here. Why? Well, we've got the 50% retracement is right where we're at right now. And we're still long term. I would anticipate that so we're at the exact mid and we're at the 50% retracement. To me, this is an area that we should be looking at to short for the time being. We can our threat to the downs. Threat back up is a little bit limited. We really would like to have a return back to the 45. So we're talking about a return to the 108.67. So about 100 pips or so of retracement back down would not be such a bad thing to have happen here. Or even back down to this zone here. So we should look at some type of pullback trade today. 109 point, what are we at, 61 right now? I think it's dangerous to continue to go long here. The only way that I would want to go long is if we get a firm break and hold above this 50% retracement and this 4/8 inner harmonic. For right now, though, I think that we should be looking at a short-term short here. We actually should call that a short scalp. At the same time, we could experience it going back up, but really from here, it's a little risky to add to longs. If you already have a long and you haven't closed it out yet, I closed out our dollar yen long positions here because this is structurally going to be a place of stiff resistance. We should see a lot of resistance. We're just very, very extended on our buying conditions. Still very bullish. Our outlook is still very, very bullish, but I don't want to hold into this area that looks like we may have a strong case for some prices returning. Now, if that doesn't happen, if we don't get a pullback between now and noon, then we probably may not get one. We will more than likely move higher, but again, our risk is really limited to probably to the 109.75 zone. Same with the euro. The euro going long here on the euro, our risk is very limited to below the low and into this arc. So we've still got a good setup there. Let's take a peek at gold now. Gold. Now, when I see a structural bounce off of an angle like this, I tend to get a little bullish, and we should experience maybe some short-term pullback on this trade as well. So actually a long scalp on gold would not be a bad idea. At 1309, I think that is a fairly safe scalp zone here to go long. Aussie dollar. Okay, this is where we were thinking that we should probably go long, and I think we should because this is the 4/8 harmonic, and again, going long and short on these trades that we've been long and short on, like the dollar yen, we've been long on for a while. The short condition that we're doing today is not associated with a long-term change in this trend reversal. It's more to do with capturing a short-term trend change and capitalizing on that move. Because this is right up against this 75 value area, we can go long here. In addition to there's not a lot of risk associated with going long right now, right? Because our risk is really limited to 74.90, 74.80, and if price were to return back down to that zone, then that's where we would be looking to go short again, because that would be a monstrous break in structure. We are still looking at prices falling in the Aussie dollar. All right, but for right now, we have good conditions for some bouncing, and we should entertain that. The only one I'm not looking at doing that on right now is looking at the pound dollar. Now the pound dollar, want to see what happens if we retest this value area here, but for right now, not really looking to keep going short. Okay, so the Aussie dollar yesterday, we did a short on the Aussie dollar. We wanted to go short at 75.36. That worked out, and we've fallen. We actually went down quite a ways, but otherwise not a big move overall. And then U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar, we're not really seeing. It's been testing this arc, guys. This is kind of fun to watch play out, that this arc has just been acting as a resistance zone for a while, and it continues to be a resistance zone, and we just don't see price able to trade above it. We wanted to go long at a return to 128.84. That did not happen. So Yeah, a break of the arc. Really, we're gonna have to wait to see here. We're forming a bull flag, so that's good. It's just we've got to really wait to see how the rest of this will play out during the day. Um, like I said last week, we probably should expect to see some type of counter trade moves going into this week, some type of pullbacks on these pullbacks, and you know we'll see what happens. There has been a lot of these currencies that are sitting in these very very important zones, just these extremely important um, value ranges and levels, like the Aussie dollar here. Look on the monthly. I mean, there is a clear break of this bear flag and this channel. There's a clear break of it, and look how last month closed below that. So there's a high probability of prices moving lower. All right, if we look at it on the weekly, same kind of condition. We see that there's a channel here without drawing a line. We can see that this bottom rising trend line has been broken, and we should continue to see prices move lower. We're just going to watch, to see if we can get back in on a deeper pullback of the week. The pound dollar, same situation. Multiple increasing trend lines that we don't have painted on here that have been broken, and we don't really see a reason for them to not continue moving lower. May change our mind on a gold trade here. We'll see. Let's look at this. Gold does have a good bias for upwards movement based on the 4-hour chart, the 1-hour chart, 8-hour, 12-hour, 1 day. Lots of reasons to go for a short-term bounce here. If we break above the lows here, we may catch a nice jump up. Aussie dollar. I think that is a decent long. Again, short-term trades here that I just put up. Let's put a note in there that all the trades today should be quick profit targets, not long-term holds. And I guess long-term is pretty subjective, and so is a quick profit target. You notice that I sometimes hold things for a period of days or a period of a couple weeks sometimes. So short term to me is a intraday hold or just 1 day. So that is to me what a short term hold is. A long term hold would be over a period of days or a week, week or longer. How about 5 days or longer? It's a week or longer. But we should see some structural bouncing on a lot of these pairs. The euro should see some bounce. The dollar, yen, we should see some rejection here. We should see some selling. Aussie dollar, some buying. So yeah, we've got some trades popping up here. The dollar index is kind of extended up here, and this is at a very important zone. I was talking about this yesterday. Is that this value area is going to be an issue because we reached this pivot in time and price, or this square of price and time. We reached this when we were already in overbought conditions. Now we've continued to extend, so we should experience a deep pullback on the dollar index. And so what that means is that all of the currencies that make up the dollar index should rise and dollar pairs should fall down. And I think that that's a good idea. All right, these consistent, constant rises, while they are awesome, it's not healthy. We need to see some pullback. So in order for this trend change to be legitimate, we need some confirmation. We need some integrity and honesty applied to this upwards trend. So this move all the way from the 16th of last month all the way to here, we need to see some type of deeper pullback that would represent some support on that pullback before we rise again. So if I want to apply my square here, I need to go to 91.70 and then 88.72. All right. So now we have to look at the range here from swing to swing. So from swing to swing, 50% retracement. Yeah, we're looking, we could probably anticipate on the 23rd or even, yeah, so 90.80, that would be a fairly decent pullback zone. Yeah, from swing to swing here. In fact, if we even want to go with the deeper swing from this low to this low, that brings us all the way back down to this inner pivot. Yeah, you know, we may just find support right at 91.70. That's the other scenario. So we got to just kind of watch out for that. But for the time being, you know, until like the euro were to break, unless the euro were to break this angle and arc here, not looking to go short right now. On the pound dollar, it's still got a long ways to go. I would really like it to pull up a little bit more because there would be a great addition to the shorts here. Because man, you look at this. The next target, see, we reached this target, and the next one is right down here on this trend line. Okay, so we are looking at, you know, the 133 zone for the pound dollar as a retracement zone. Just looking at our long trades, a lot of them are just kind of floating around in here. New Zealand dollar. Now the New Zealand dollar we should be looking at a long above 70.34. All right. And then yeah, even though we've got some trades going against us here so far, I don't see a lot of oomph to push it down now. So we should be sitting okay. Pound dollar, it's still doing its thing. It's hovering here. Let's see. Yeah, wait. Interesting. if we return back above 109.70, then we are probably going to want to exit that short and continue going long, or just staying flat on the day. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing is if we don't get a counter trend move this morning, until I say something convincing one way or the other, I'm not really going to be interested in taking a trade today. Because we're so overdone. And we need to expect some type of counter trend move. If it doesn't happen today or this morning while we're talking, I want to see what happens in the afternoon. To see if there's some type of fading that goes on or not. And if there's not, I just want to keep my options open and look to see, did we just kind of have a pause this morning, following a continuation, or is this turning out to be a little bit of a bull trap on the short run here? We'll just have to watch and see how it plays out, because we certainly have a lot of trade opportunities in front of us as we're looking. Let's see, the pound dollar still showing a lot of weakness, not seeing any real relief here. New Zealand dollar increased selling as it moved higher. So yeah, we are seeing some continued weakness. The euro dollar continued to press lower there. We'll see what happens at the close of the hourly. Pound dollar, euro pound rather. Gold is actually showing a little bit more oomph, which it usually does. And the dollar index, we'll see. If we break this high of the day, we'll probably go higher. US dollar, Canadian dollar. It's finding a little support there. So we can see a lot of these hourly candlesticks are lots of buying and selling pressure on top of it. It's with quite a bit of volume if we look. So the dollar yen, the volume's actually decreasing here. So what this is telling us is, telling us a number of things. Indecision. The gold trade, it's got more volume on this hourly. The euro pound has a lot more volume on this hourly. Euro dollar has quite a bit more volume. Now, because we're at a market bottom, like a short-term swing bottom from this big downtrend, and because we're at this arc which acts as support, this could be considered fairly bullish, even though the candlestick is indecisive. And then the New Zealand dollar, similar scenario, but going long here, really kind of want to limit that kind of an exposure, because we want to see if we test above this pivot line, and if we can get above this 618 retracement here. So this long here, we may catch a few pips on the run up, but want to see some conviction of a short-term rally. Pound dollar really not seeing much of any any support there. It's just continuing to drive lower. Aussie dollar, same issue. So we'll see what happens at the close here. Let's take a peek at cryptos real quick. Seeing a little bit of weakness in our cryptocurrencies. The Bitcoin's had a little bit of a drop. We're back below 9,000, sitting at 88.74. That's just, we're just kind of floating around in here in this range, and we're getting close to breaking out above 10,000. That should be expected as we're moving on. Yeah, it's just doing its thing. Then we have the Etherium, similar issue. We're inside of its arc. You should see it continue to move outside of this arc and found resistance at this 2x1 angle. Litecoin, Similar scenario where it's below this 45, and that 45 has been acting as a source of resistance for Litecoin. But essentially, we're forming a kind of a bear flag, a bull flag here, and we should expect to see it show some support later on this week. All right. Okay. Other than that, we've got a lot of these altcoins that are showing some strength still. EOS, just a real big sell-off. Right at the top of this arc, it started to sell off, and it's dropped a lot. Let's see, what is this? Yeah, we've had a 30% dip. US dollar CHF is still moving higher. The dollar index is really not falling lower either. We've got I think they call this a spinning top, I can't remember. Ooh, Bitcoin catching a little bit of a sale here. But finding support there, so yeah, just kind of keep your eye on these markets. Certainly if we get a return, like if we're looking at the Aussie dollar, that long that we entered, if it doesn't work out, if we return back to the low here, that's a key area to entertain going short. But for the time being, as long as we're above the 75, we should hold on to the long, because there's a lot of reward for the risk here. Pound dollar, not seeing anything. New Zealand dollar, same scenario really as the Aussie dollar. The euro, looking a bit more supportive than bearish here, but again, a break below the low of this hourly, we should entertain looking at the short opportunity again. But just keep your eyes on the close of the hourly. Excuse me. And yeah, we should have some good moves coming up here. And looking forward to these counter moves. I would love to see them today or tomorrow or sometime this week, where there's a significant relief rally of 100 or 200 pips on some of these pairs, where it drives up, we see that exhaustion start to happen, and then it just kind of falls back down again, and we get back into the short trend. Because if you look at it like the euro, if we are truly starting a new bear trend, then we should, if this is our first Elliott wave, actually if we start back here, if this is our first kind of Elliott leg, like 1, 2, 3, we should want to see a pullback towards that 122, probably all the way over to here before we fall down lower. Get the fourth and then the fifth leg. All right, something to keep an eye on. Anyways, keep your eyes on these markets. They like to move. The trend right now is very strong for the continued direction. We're just looking for some short-term bounce opportunities here, and if they don't pan out, no big deal, because we can just re-enter back into the trend with a little risk. Not a lot of risk today. We've got great short-term trades and then continuations of our long-term trades. So we can capitalize on the movements of both, and we should look to do that. So, yeah. I hope you guys had a good trading day yesterday. Hope it worked out for you. Have a great beginning of May, and I will visit with you tomorrow. Bye-bye.